Cameron, good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
Adrian, how are you?
I'm okay. Who's taking control of this thing?
I'm glad it's the Friday. Usually we've been getting a lot of hate in the comments on the Friday Firepit because the crappy quiz hasn't been on. So everyone's like, "Where's the bloody quiz?" But the crappy quiz, I'm told, is on today. So instead of leaving those negative comments,
folks.
Just tell us in the comments how much you love the Firepit because we've got the quiz today.
That'll be great. Well, because we have Naz Chowdhury's list, so it's like a Friday match today rather than a Firepit. We have to go through this quickly. We'll start with the volley thing because I think that's caught people's attention.
We definitely haven't talked enough about it.
I think
I'm glad you. I
mean, we literally have a former international footballer who has solved the whole thing, and we're still like,
I think Ashley Garani is responsible.
Still though, let's
not call it a debate.
My one thing about this though has been so like, whether it's a volley or not, I also don't think you can call it a strike because to me a strike could mean anything. There's like no definition to that at all.
But it has to call.
What do you call it? Kick.
Something.
Well, effort is always.
I don't mind calling it anything as long
wide.
as it's not called a volley. Incorrect,
Lads, I don't know. It's fired people up. I just don't know. I don't know how Wayne Rooney's strike from halfway line, where the ball is at an apex and it's in the air for ages, and then he hits it. Is not. It's not a bloody half volley anyway.
We can move on from this very quickly. If either of you, have you any? Do you want to endorse Shane's thoughts?
Oh no, I'm letting him fall on that sword unless Kathleen wants to.
I kind of see Shane's point. I do get the point of if it bounces. But I also think if someone's in the air and they're striking a ball like that, to me that's like a volley is the only thing that actually does it justice, because if you just call it a strike, then it's, I don't know, it doesn't describe what's actually happening.
A beautiful strike, could we, like, with that?
Let's go with that.
But
and aesthetically.
But that still doesn't describe what you're actually seeing. Whereas when you say the word volley, you know exactly what someone means, and you see that kind of they're mid-air, they're almost like this.
Like Zidane against Leverkusen or Rooney against Man City. That's an unmistakable volley.
You misdescribe it as a volley. You give the best picture of it, Kathleen, is what you're saying.
Well, I don't know. Like, I have never really felt all that strongly about this point until this morning. But I also think it's the best word to describe what you're seeing in front of you. Like, if I just said, I watched a strike, that could literally mean anything. Whereas if I say he volleyed the ball, you're not necessarily thinking, did it bounce beforehand? Did it not bounce beforehand? You have that automatic image in your head of someone like on the edge, leaning over, beautiful leg out. You see the photos already like in your head on the front pages. You know what it means. So I'm not saying technically Shane is wrong or right. I'm just saying that
definitely wrong.
I know what he was getting at.
If somebody said, go and watch that volley as you describe it, and then I was to see that, I'd be like, well, why? That was misdescribed.
Yeah, but also it's not a half volley. Bloody hell.
What have we anything else?
We do actually.
We have to commit to this for the next 20 minutes or something else.
We do. It was something that came up actually yesterday with Gavin Houlihan's goal for Grimsby, which sent Southampton crashing out of the FA Cup. That one of our colleagues here at News Talk went to school with Gavin, and it got me thinking about like. Everybody in every school had like the best athlete in their class or in their year or whatever, and I always wonder what happened to them, like, because we've all experienced that, and unfortunately I can only speak for myself here, but I certainly wasn't the best athlete. But I'm always curious to find out what happens to, do they go on to have an excellent career, do they give up afterwards? I just think
in school with?
I was in school with,
I mean, I'm not looking for the full class list here.
Well, yeah, from A to Z. Like the person I'm thinking of at the moment, there's a few different people. Sarah McGill, who was an underage Irish football star, she was a couple of years ahead of me. A couple of years below me, Hubert Gilvary, who was in the Connacht Academy, played a few times for Connacht, is now doing his thing with the Ireland Sevens. And I mean, hopefully he can go on to have the same kind of career that Hugo Keenan had from that launch pad. But you were saying you have a few interesting people you went to school with who...
It wasn't like, these aren't like, actually some of them are sort of whatever became of them, but there was like a lot of, it was a big GA school at that time. Rory O'Connell would have been a couple of years ahead of me. Fergal Murray would have been around the same year. Joe Fallon, Tom Trainer. There was a lot of players who went on to play for Westmeath and then Roscommon as well, because it was on the border there.
Yeah.
But there was also, you gave us like a sort of a breadth of about 11 years, I think. Did you sort of a...
Kind of. Like, what do you count as being in school with someone? Because I went to primary school with Matty Ruan, and he was my next door neighbour.
That's legit.
Yeah, you'd take that? Okay, cool. There you go.
We had two lads go over to play professional football. Ray Kelly was one, and I'd sort of forget, the way you kind of forget about things, and then it was like listening to the Roddy Collins book, and I was just reminded that he went back to Bohemians. He'd gone over and played for Man City. I think Mick McCarthy might have been, did Mick McCarthy manage Man City for a while?
He played for Man City, didn't he?
Maybe it was around the end of his days there. I'd have to Wikipedia that one. But actually, no, I might be conflating these stories. There was another one then, Mickey Collins went over to play for Millwall. Who was Mick McCarthy manager of Millwall at that time.
So Mick played for Man City and played for Millwall. He also managed Millwall.
It was Mickey Collins at Millwall then, and I think he came back and played League of Ireland for a few years. But Robbie Henshaw is the one. Now that's where I'm testing the 11 years thing. Probably. I
was going to say you weren't in the same year as Robbie anyway.
No, not the same year. No chance.
No. Were you in the school at the same time?
Don't think so.
Not a chance.
No, we wouldn't have been. No, because he'd have
had to been. That's totally that question, Cameron.
No. He'd have been 6 or 7 years younger than me, and unfortunately,
I just missed the boat. Yeah.
My colleagues here are guffawing at me.
Robbie Henshaw wasn't even Adrian was doing the leaving cert, and Robbie Henshaw wasn't even a thought.
That's very unfair. I think that's very unfair, Shane. Anyone?
Fine, yeah.
I don't know if St. McCartan's College at the same where I went in Monaghan Town, the secondary school it's a very Gaelic football heavy school.
Okay.
We play a lot of sport, like there's soccer and plenty of other sports in it as well, but it is like if you play Gaelic football, you're laughing. So a lot of mine would be like, I was in a lot of lads who went on to play county football for Monaghan would have been in my class, but there's I was looking for a real sexy answer like Tommy Bowe or Barry McGuigan was in my school. I can't say that. So there's no one who really obviously playing for your county is a great achievement, but no one who I can say, that's unbelievable.
College in Athlone, by the way, that was I never mentioned that.
Yeah.
No. You know, like there's people out there living in Brazil right now who went to school with Pele. Do you know that kind of thing, or people who are in Muhammad Ali's class in Louisville. Like that is impressive. Imagine being able to say that. Oh, Muhammad Ali sat beside me there in school.
Well, you know how people make like nuanced comments about he'll do something now, that fella.
Yeah.
He'll go on. There's something
Mouthy,
something about him.
Yeah.
Never shuts up, that guy.
Kathleen.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Shane. Like a lot of people in my school went on to do impressive things, but it wasn't necessarily really in a sporting context. I also feel like it's slightly different as well when you go to an all-girls school. Like, 'cause obviously there aren't the same opportunities to go on and maybe have like a stellar career, or like they're definitely a lot more limited. So I know, so our school they encouraged the people who were very good at sport, but the rest of us weren't necessarily encouraged to play it all that much. So yeah, I don't really know if I have anything very good to add to that particular topic.
Where did Mona McSharry go?
She was, because she was Ross's Point, isn't she? I think she went to one of the schools out that way. I don't think she went into town. I could be wrong on that. Also, a great Sligo person, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Sligo's heap with famous people. Like, do you know, if WB Yates was in your class, that'd be great. Like,
I tell you, he can write.
It'd be a slight worry if he was in my class in the year slide, but
stretching the 11-year theory there.
Imagine being in English class with WB Yates. And you're like, anyone want to pick up this?
If you were the teacher, you'd just be sitting back going, WB.
Yeah. WB.
Do you reckon that was his nickname in school?
I would say so, yeah.
WB.
I would say so.
Warner Brothers.
I'd say when he got in trouble, it was William Butler. I'd say that was
come in here for your dinner.
Yates. Yeah.
Mona actually went to school in Ballyshannon. Didn't even go to school in Sligo. I was thinking that. I was like, I never remember.
So she's an only Gaul woman, really? You're only claiming her?
No. It was like there's a part of the Bundoran Road. If you live there, you kind of either go towards Donegal for school, or you go towards Sligo, but you still live in Sligo.
I was at the United game against Barcelona. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, in Stretford End, and I was very conscious not to bring my phone out. I had my phone out maybe to take a little video before the game or after the game, but during the 90 minutes of the match itself, I was like, nah, not a chance. I'm not going to enjoy this. I know, Cameron, you've brought this topic up as a potential fire pit option as well.
I'm surprised you brought it up, because you were disproved the last time you were on saying I would never do that.
The question is,
I'm not a crook.
The question is, what's the best way to watch
Shane
sport?
Nixon.
My answer is in person with your eyes, not your bloody phone. But
as opposed to filming Crow Park.
Well, Cameron has an interesting enough take on this one.
Yeah, like, what's the best way to watch sport apart from live? Because I heard obviously live is, another world, but I was listening to a podcast the other day and someone said my favourite way to watch sport, and I completely agree with this, is in a Curry's when your mum's off shopping and you've 19 TVs to choose from and they're all really high quality. That was my favourite way to watch like 20 minutes of a game.
Though, would you?
Oh, you would. Yeah, because they'd be showing off the speakers, wouldn't they?
True, I suppose, yeah.
Possibly a controversial take. You say like the best way to watch sport is live. The best way to experience sport is live, but is it the best way to watch it?
Oh no, I think it definitely is. And I have a really
because like you can't like when you're there and you're in the moment, you're watching the game, you're getting into it, you have like the crowd, but you're not. You have to almost go back and watch it again to actually get any sort of like analysis or thought process to it. So like, yes, experiencing a game live when there's an amazing atmosphere is unreal. But like watching a game and properly seeing what's happening.
No, I think live. Right. I think live is the best, and it's a controversial topic among my friend group. But I think behind the goals is the best seat in the house.
I think that's true on an occasional basis, but not.
Depends on the game in the stadium, really.
The sport, like.
Yeah.
It does depend. If you're up high in with the gods, I think that's the best place to watch because you can see how I've watched Ireland games
rugby
from behind, and you can see how the play is developing and the movement of the players.
Then you lose at a certain point. I was sat behind the Havelock square end goal for the Ireland New Zealand game, and it's an amazing view for some of the stuff that's going on in front of you. But once it goes outside that 22 that's in front of you, you're just on the TV. Like,
depends on the sport. Formula One, I think, would attest to what Kathleen is saying there, as in Formula One TV coverage is unbelievable. It's unparalleled. Like, you've got the radio, you're hearing what team principals are saying to drivers, you're hearing what team principals are arguing with FIA, race directors, and then just the coverage of all.
Can you get a little earpiece for that?
I don't know. But you see, that's the thing. Like in football, if you're watching a race in person, you're really only seeing cars go past very fast.
Yeah,
you're hearing some commentary as well. But it's not quite
Monaco
the same.
would be the best, I'd say. Would it?
Yeah,
because
you're having your glass of vino and chilling out.
Cheese, yeah.
But I think certain sports lend themselves more to just TV viewing. Now, I was at the snooker last week in Wolverhampton, and snooker, believe it or not, is a brilliant in-person sport. Like you go out between sessions, you're sitting there for 4 frames trying to be really quiet. But like the atmosphere is like you could hear a pin drop, and then when an unbelievable shot goes in, the place erupts. So I think it's one of those.
Kathleen, what's tennis like live? I know you've been to Wimbledon. Is it much better?
I feel like Wimbledon is like a weird example for tennis. Like I don't know if this is what all of them are like because there's so much pageantry and there's so much pomp to it. Like I just remember sitting on centre court watching Ash Barty play, and it was like one of the first ones I had gone to at Wimbledon, and like every time there's a break in play, you just hear pop, 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 pop around because everyone's popping their bottles of champagne. Like you're allowed to bring whatever you want in glass, it doesn't really matter. And then the game will start up again and it's like completely silent. And all you can hear is like the players talking to themselves or like shouting out to their coaches. And then again, play stops and you just hear pop, 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 pop. I don't know if it's necessarily better live. I think it's very dependent on who's playing. And like when Andy Murray was playing, the crowd was absolutely electric and there was like this ripple of anticipation even when it was completely silent. But whenever, say, there was like someone that maybe wasn't as well known or wasn't a fan favourite with the crowd, it was a very different atmosphere. And I kind of like with tennis because sometimes there's like quite a lot of breaks in play. It's nice having that commentary to listen into and kind of like actual experts talking about what has just happened or telling stories. Like a lot of the time you get former tennis players on. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm glad I experienced and I would definitely go back again, but I don't know if it would be one of my like top sports to watch live.
I've been shouted at here that we have to wrap up.
I will say
it's too curtailed. We need more room for it.
Yeah,
we need to get on to the producer, who's now unhappy because he's had a curtailed item. But that notwithstanding, Cameron, thank you very much. Kathleen,
thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's the Fire Pit.
What is it called? Friday Firepit? Firepit Fridays.
So we just put a bit more thought into dominating comments box this morning. You gotta call it like it is.
Friday, like, come on.
The Friday Firepit.